All right, we are talking protein, we're talking peptides, we're talking degeneration of the body as it relates to deficiencies in protein and peptides. Specifically, we've been talking about glutathione, which is the body's most important cancer fighter, most important detoxifier, most important antioxidant. Glutathione is singularly depleted by prescription drugs, by toxins, and if you have a degenerative disease, chances are you're also dealing with deficiencies in this super mega important peptide glutathione, especially if you're dealing with degenerative eye disease. The eyes are loaded with glutathione, and the eyes are one of the most likely places for breakdown disorders to occur because the eyes are made up of such delicate and sensitive tissue. Their very nature is to be sensitive. They're sensory organs, thus they're sensitive by definition. They're subject to bombardment by super energetic and super powerful particles from the sun, ultraviolet particles, photons, and are pretty much subject to photonic energy every waking moment. If your eyes are open, they're being subject to photonic energy, powerful photonic energetic particles that come from the sun. In fact, as relatively common as degenerative eye disease is, cataracts, the classic degenerative eye disease, affects over 20 million people. Glaucoma, we haven't talked about glaucoma, but we will. Glaucoma affects another 2 to 3 million people. Another 2 to 3 million people have macular degeneration. If you throw in another 4 million diabetics who have retina disease, so-called retinopathy, another 5 million or so people have dry eyes. That's over 30 million people dealing with some kind of degenerative eye disease. That's 10% of our population is dealing with some kind of visual impairment. That's a lot of people. But when you think about how delicate and sensitive the eyes are, and you think about the kind of energetic intensity that they are pounded with on a second-by-second basis every waking moment of our lives, it's pretty darn amazing that even more people don't have degenerative eye disease or degenerative eye disease issues of some kind. And why is that? Why is it that only 10% of people have degenerative eye disease? As significant as that is, 90% of people don't. Why is that? It's because the eyes are absolutely packed with protective chemicals. They're loaded with protective chemicals, which for the most part are what we consider nutrients, foods, and nutritional supplements. What we eat via foods, what we eat via nutritional supplements, what we don't eat via foods and nutritional supplements has a huge impact on eye health. It has a huge impact on our entire body, but no system is more dependent on the kind of foods that we eat and the kind of nutrients we take than the visual system, than the eyes. It's absolutely vital. It's absolutely imperative that we pay attention to the kind of food we're eating and the kind of supplements we're taking when it comes to protecting our eyes. A couple days ago, we talked about the article that appeared in the journal Ophthalmology that said that just simply taking a multiple vitamin could decrease the incidence of macular degeneration by almost 10%. Just a multiple vitamin, which is the minimum wage. Just the minimum wage of vitamin A, the minimum wage of vitamin C, the minimum wage of zinc. Tiny, infinitesimal amounts of these kinds of nutrients can have a tremendous impact on eye health, let alone if we pay a lot of attention, get on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, get on the Healthy Star Pack, make sure we're getting the Mighty 90, make sure we're eating correctly. If you are dealing with any kind of eye health issue, it is absolutely imperative that you start to pay attention to the kind of supplements you're putting in your body and the kind of foods that you're eating. Degenerative disease means degeneration. Breakdown. There's no treatment for degeneration. There's no doctor treatment for degeneration. I don't know how many ways I can say this. We talk about it every day on The Bright Side. I talk about it every time I do a presentation. There is no medical treatment for degeneration, which is the largest percentage, the largest majority of our healthcare issues is degenerative disease, breakdown disease, disease that doesn't get better. I'm talking all degeneration, macular degeneration or otherwise. The doctor cannot regenerate us. Drugs cannot regenerate us. Only the divine force can do that. And we are plugged in, people. We're all plugged into the divine force. We don't need our doctor for a degenerative disease. Now, if you get hit by a bus, that's different. If you have some kind of mechanical trauma, God bless the surgeons. God bless surgery. Heroic medicine is an absolute marvel of 21st century, 20th and 21st century technology. It's absolutely mind-blowing what surgeons can do in a traumatic kind of setting. Heroic medicine is heroic. It's stupendous. Nobody is downplaying the importance of heroic medicine. What we are marginalizing and minimizing and diminishing and ripping on every day on the bright side is doctors stealing, taking what doesn't belong to them. And that is this power, this healing power that is built into the body. I call it the divine force. You can call it nature. You can call it anything you want to call it, but it's something in us that is responsible for this healing process, and it rides on top of nutrients. The energy that we call the divine force rides in a vehicle of nutrition. Macular degeneration is associated with little crappy particles, little cholesterol fatty particles that appear in the eye. It's called drusen, D-R-U-S-E-N. And there's no treatment for drusen. There's no treatment for any degenerative disease, macular degeneration or otherwise. Degeneration is not a treatment issue. It's not a medical issue, whether it's occurring in the macula, the joints, the nerves, the brain, or anywhere else. But it doesn't matter because we don't need the medical model to regenerate our tissue, especially eye tissue, because it's in the bodies and the eyes and the macula's nature to regenerate without our doctor's involvement. All right, got more to say when we come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben. Our number is 855-660-4261. We'll be back at you with more good health information right after this. Don't go away. All right, we're talking about eye health and peptides and proteins. Before we went to break, we were saying how degeneration is not a doctor issue. Degeneration, which is the vast majority of the our healthcare issues in this country, are degenerative disease related. That is, diseases that do not heal themselves, diseases that just degenerate. The body goes into breakdown mode. The good news is we could do it all ourselves, and that means if you're dealing with arthritis, or you're dealing with osteoporosis, or you're dealing with wrinkling, accelerated aging of the skin, or of course if you're dealing with eye degeneration, we can do it ourselves. If you're dealing with macular degeneration or whatever, we can take care of it ourselves. A few years ago, a study appeared in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that showed the same results that the Journal of Ophthalmology reported on a couple of weeks ago. Except this time it was not for cataracts, it was for macular degeneration. In both cases, studies were done with multivitamin supplements. They showed that even mere smatterings, infinitesimally tiny concentrations of vitamin C and beta-carotene and zinc and vitamin E, tiny little doses of these things manifested themselves as improved markers of eye health. Improvements in cataract formation, improvements in macular degeneration, improvements in vision. Now, what do you suppose would happen if participants in these experiments were put on real doses of nutrients, mega doses of nutrients, or at least good-sized doses like you get in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine or you get in the Healthy Start Pack. Remember, these things that we call nutrients, folks, are non-toxic, with the exception of minerals, and even then, it takes a very large amount of minerals to induce any symptoms. And then for the most part, if you take too much selenium and you get, there's not a lot, by the way, selenium, maybe zinc, maybe iron, you could take too much, but if you stop taking them, you don't get any more symptoms. It's not like drugs. If drugs could make that statement, what if drugs could say, oh, we're non-toxic, or drug companies could say, we sell products that are non-toxic? What do you think that would do? Or what do you think would happen if nutrients had even a tenth of the toxicity of nutritional supplements? What would happen then? You can't make that statement about drugs. You can't say drugs are non-toxic. Most of them will cause serious damage or even kill you if you take even twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times as much as the recommended dose. You can take 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 times the dose of vitamin C or vitamin E, the recommended doses of vitamin C and vitamin E, and nothing's going to happen except you're going to feel better. Try that with your beta blocker drug or your calcium channel blocker drug. What would happen if people who had macular degeneration had their malabsorption issues corrected? What if they got on a good probiotic supplement? What if people who were dealing with degenerative eye disease focused on nutrient absorption or stopped eating foods that would throw off blood sugar and starting using sugar-stabilizing nutrients, eating more protein, eating more coconut oil, eating more fatty nutrients? What would happen then? What would happen if we ate less calories? I'll tell you what would happen. The regenerative systems would take over. The degenerative diseases, the symptoms of the degenerative diseases that we're dealing with, no matter where they show up, would start to drop. This madness of treating our degenerative diseases, this craziness of treating degenerative diseases with drugs, is this mindless meme. A meme is like a mental virus. It's a belief that is stuck inside us, that jumps inside us, and we don't have any control over it, and all of a sudden we believe it. And we have this meme that says if we're sick, we go to the doctor. We have this belief that says if we have an arthritis or a degenerative disease, there's a drug for us. We have a culture in which we've been hypnotized with corporate and industrial marketing trances to believe that our doctors and our drugs have something to do with our health. It's a meme. It's a belief. It's not true. Doctors and drugs have nothing, N-O-T-H-I-N-G, nothing to do with our health. Again, with the exception of heroic medicine. Nothing. If your doctor wants to, quote, put you on something, unquote, I hear this all the time, my doctor wants me to take this, my doctor put me on. If your doctor wants to put you on something or wants you to, quote, take something, ask questions. Don't be overwhelmed by your fancy schmancy Latin diagnosis. Ask your doctor how poisoning your body can restore you back to health. See if he knows. And if he's intelligent enough to know, if he's honest enough to know, he'll say, well, I guess not. I guess it really doesn't. You have the right to ask your doctor if he believes you can be restored back to health. Because you see, my friends, this is what underlies this craziness that we call the medical model. What underlies it is the belief, implicit and sometimes explicit, that the body cannot heal itself, that we are doomed, that we are condemned to break down. There's this idea that is in the culture, and it's perpetuated by people who prey on us, predators who make money off of us, predators who profit on this belief system. There is this idea that we cannot take care of ourselves, that the body is flawed. It is not flawed. It is absolutely mind-blowingly almost a miracle, except it's not a miracle because it just happens all the time. There's this stupendous ability that the body has to heal itself, but it happens at the cell level. This is why it's not a doctor issue. This is why degeneration and regeneration are not doctor issues, because degenerative disease is a cell disease issue. All degenerative disease, that is, disease that does not get better, results from only one thing, and that is cells that are breaking down, cells that are starved and suffocated and toxic. It's a cellular issue, and medicine cannot help the cell. Let me say that again. That is so important. Medicine cannot help the cell. The doctor cannot help the cell, because you know what? The cell is almost as as close to the divine force as you can get in life. It is the first place the divine force shows up in life, whether it's plant life or anything that's alive, plant life or human life or bacterial life or fungal life. The cell is where divinity enters into the life force. It enters into matter and forms the life force at the level of a cell. And cells pay no attention to your doctor unless your doctor wants to poison them, which is how drugs work. The only thing that we can do to help a cell is give it its three basic needs, and a cell only has three basic needs. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrition, and it needs detoxification. Drugs and doctors and devices and surgery and medical insurance in the medical model cannot provide a cell with oxygen, cannot provide a cell with nutrients, and cannot provide a cell with detoxification. Only we can do that, and that is such good news. That's the bright side, folks. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We're coming back with more good health information in your phone calls at 855-660-4261 right after this.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
All right, we're back on The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. There's so much to talk about when it comes to eye health issues, and I will be talking about eye health for the next couple of days, and we're going to talk about glutathione, how that relates to eye health. In the meantime, for you guys who are dealing with some kind of eye health issue, you may want to consider getting yourself on the Vision FX product from Longevity. It's a great source of something called lutein, L-U-T-E-I-N. Lutein is actually something that makes up your eyes. This is so cool. Lutein, which is only found in plants. Animals can't make lutein. Humans can't make lutein. It's only found in plants. It's found in yellow plants, green yellow plants, spinach, kale, corn. Egg yolks are a good source of lutein. Of course, it comes from plants. The chickens eat plants and vegetation. They're supposed to anyway. And that's where they get their lutein from, pecking on corn and such. And then we eat the lutein, and the lutein goes right into our eyes. Our eyes are made of vegetables. How do you like that? In fact, the visual process itself depends on a protein called retinol, which is actually found only in vegetables and only in plants. Only in, I shouldn't say that, retinol, carotene, beta-carotene, which is a type of retinol, I guess. It's made up of a couple of retinol molecules. These carotenes and luteins are only found in plants, and We eat the plants and it goes right into our eyes. We see with our eyes that are made out of vegetables. Our eyes are literally made out of components that are found in vegetation and nutritional supplements. This is one of the key reasons why you want to eat your vegetables. And guess what? It's not just eating your vegetables, because there's a special kind of nutritional supplement or nutritional component that you want to eat with your vegetables to make sure that you're getting your lutein and your other eye healthy nutrients. And we'll talk about that in the coming days as we continue talking about degenerative eye disease, degeneration in general, and protein and peptides. All right. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Time to hit our phones. 855-660-4261 is our number. Let's go to Tony in Texas. Welcome to The Bright Side. What's up, Tony?
Yeah, doctor. I had a question about the gut and bacteria. I know that there's positive and negatively charged bacteria in your gut.
Well, they're not really charged. They're not charged. So, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's kind of semantic. Charge refers to electricity. So what you're talking about is good bacteria and bad bacteria, toxic bacteria and bacteria that are beneficial, probiotics. Pro means in favor of, biotic means life, in favor of life. Probiotics are bacteria that are in favor of life, as opposed to bad bacteria, which can create all kinds of toxicity and do create all kinds of toxicity in the body. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
So when you take probiotics, how does the probiotics know which bacteria to attack? Is
the probiotics, no, they don't attack anything. The probiotics is just a general term for bacteria that live in the gut, in a healthy gut of a dog or a cat or a monkey or a human being. The healthy gut is home to trillions of bacteria of hundreds of different varieties. And these bacteria that we call probiotics help us digest our food. They have this symbiotic relationship. You ever see animal shows on TV where they'll show you a whale or a shark, and they'll have little fish that they kind of float around the top of the shark, and when the shark eats something and little crumbs from whatever the shark float up, the little fish will eat those the little fish kind of travel with the shark and take advantage of what the shark eats. You ever seen that? Does that image come to mind at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what you can think of. That's what probiotics are. They're like those little fish that kind of eat the crumbs that the shark doesn't get into its belly, doesn't get into its mouth. Well, we have bacteria that do the same thing. They eat our crumbs, so to speak. Now, it's not an exact analogy, but that's kind of a good way of picturing it. But what's even cooler about these little bacteria is not only do these bacteria feed off of our food and eat our food, but in return, as those bacteria are eating the food that we eat, they're producing good fats that help fuel our digestive tract. They're producing vitamins like the B complex, vitamin B12, for example, is produced by these bacteria. These bacteria are cleansing toxins from food, like cancer-causing toxins. These bacteria are helping us process things like fats, so that we can get the energy from those fats. And these bacteria are replacing the bad bacteria. There's only so much room in the intestine, and the more room is filled by good bacteria, the less room there's going to be for bad bacteria. So there's all these multiple benefits, but the easiest way of thinking about the relationship between these probiotic bacteria and us is like thinking of these little fish that swim around with the sharks and eat the crumbs off of the sharks. There's also birds that will travel around with hippopotami, I guess you say, and the little birds will eat the crumbs that the hippopotami don't get. There's a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic means they give us something, we give them something. There's a symbiotic relationship between the probiotics and us. Most importantly, these probiotics, via their ability to help us process food, are incredibly important for digestive health. They clean the intestine, they help the body process food, and thereby helping reduce symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, gas, and bloating. On the other hand, if you don't have these probiotic bacteria and you have an overpopulation of the bad bacteria, that's when you start to get into problems like gas and bloating and loose stools, diarrhea, constipation. Pretty much every single digestive symptom you can think of can result from an imbalance in these kinds of bacteria, the probiotics versus the good bacteria bacteria versus the bad bacteria. And by the way, that includes cancer, and that also includes mental health issues, autism, schizophrenia, psychosis, depression. All of these have a connection between the types of bacteria in the gut, the relationships of good bacteria and the brain bacteria, and the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and brain health, for example, and ultimately for the health of the immune system, which can show up, God forbid, as something as terrible as cancer or as mild as a skin rash. Does that help? I hope I didn't confuse you more.
Oh,
Tony?
no, that helps.
That helps?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Thanks so much, buddy. Have a beautiful day, man. All right, and by the way, you need a probiotic, in my opinion, you need a probiotic supplement. Everybody needs the Biolumin Nightly Essence. No matter what the heck your health challenge is, you need a probiotic supplement. But you should never marginalize or underestimate the importance of fermented foods, good fermented foods, sauerkraut, miso, tempeh. I know we talk about it all the time, but since we're on the subject, learn how to ferment foods. You can get starter packs for fermented foods at any health food store, and you can make your own sauerkraut out of cabbage. It's real easy to do, and it's actually quite tasty, even though some folks don't like fermented foods. Most folks will find them very tasty. Okay, let's see who's next on the line. What is up, Andrew in Virginia? Welcome to the bright side.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. We've had a couple different perspectives on metals, and particularly aluminum and aluminum cans, pros and cons.
Who's we? What do you mean by we?
My family here. Just hearing different views, and we were trying to pin it down a little bit better as to whether it's all right to take in some of these things and focus more on getting the nutrients in, not worrying so much about maybe a minute amount of toxicity from aluminum.
Okay, well, here's the thing. You're asking actually a bunch of questions. First of all, metals are very confusing because it's really interesting about metals. There's good metals and there's bad metals, and they can both be aluminum, and they can both be mercury, and they can both be lead. You can have good lead and good mercury and bad mercury, and good arsenic and bad arsenic. And I'm being very simplistic here if you're a biochemist out there, but that's because we give the same chemicals, we give different chemical structures, or atomic structures really, the same name. And this is very confusing. So there's aluminum A and there's aluminum B, and we'll call them both aluminum, but A can be a problem and B can be nutritional. But they're both called aluminum, and I'll explain more when we come back from our break. If you're on hold, hang tight. Try to get to all of our callers today. I'm Pharmacist Ben. All right, we are back with the bright side, talking to Andrew in Virginia about metals. Are you there, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the deal, and I'm going to try and be as simplistic as possible because it is a little bit complicated. It has to do with something called physical chemistry, P-chem, as they say, and that is a really complex subject. I don't want to get too off track. We are talking about nutrition. I don't want to get too off track. But to simplify things, there's two kinds of metals, and this is very simplistic. You got metals that are, by definition, metallic substances that are metallic, which simply means that they are arranged in a certain pattern that allows them to conduct electrical energy. If you picture, say, a metal iron or metal a metal tin or metal aluminum, as you say, what you'll see under an electron microscope is all of the iron atoms or aluminum atoms or tin atoms are lined up in an almost perfectly square kind of system, a matrix-like setup, so that electrical energy can flow through them very effectively. And that's the technical term for metals. If you're a chemist, that's what you consider to be a metal. However, when we talk about metals, when we talk about things like aluminum and iron and zinc and molybdenum and cobalt and all of these other substances that have a potential to be metal or potentially arrangeable in a certain pattern, a matrix-like pattern that allows them to conduct electrical energy, we're talking about nutritional metals which are bonded or somehow connected to proteins and organic matter. These are called colloidal minerals. And again, I'm being very simplistic here, but it's a critical distinction to make. Metallic minerals, so-called heavy metals, are arranged, have their atoms arranged in a matrix-like fashion that allows electrical energy to be conducted through them very effectively. This makes them very dangerous. This makes them very problematic, and the body will do anything it can do to get them out of the system. It will detoxify them. It will stash them into tissues. It'll put them in fatty parts of the body to kind of sequester them because of their ability to conduct electrical energy. Remember, the body's an electrical system. when you throw things inside the body that can disrupt that electrical energy, and that's what heavy metals can do because they're so conductive, that creates a big problem. And the body's evolved many wonderful mechanisms for preventing that from occurring, including stashing them in fat or detoxifying them with substances like glutathione, which we've been talking about. We will talk about more about that, and vitamin C. Now, colloidal metals, nutritional metals, are completely different. Those nutritional metals they're not really metals any longer, but those nutritional substances like nutritional iron, nutritional cobalt, nutritional aluminum, those are complexed in some fashion. The best ones are complex with organic matter, but if you use a nutritional supplement, sometimes they'll complex them with things like maybe a sulfate or oxide or glycinate. Those are called chelates, for example. But in plants, which is where we get our plant-derived minerals from, they're complex with organic matter. Heavy metals are complex with things that plants make via the dirt, via clay. This is all, by the way, if you're a scientist, you'll call it all of this stuff ion exchange. That's the fancy way of saying how a piece of clay or a piece of dirt will turn a heavy metal into something that's nutritional. And ultimately, when we eat those things in plants, we're not eating the same kind of, even though they're both called metals, we're not eating the same kind of iron. We're not eating the same kind of tin. We're not eating the same kind of aluminum. We're not eating the same kind of iodine. We're not eating the same kind of silver. Silver will kill you if it's in a metallic form, but in a colloidal form, it's completely non-toxic. Iodine will kill you if it's in a metallic form, but if it's in a colloidal form, it becomes an essential nutrient. So by complexing themselves, via the mechanism of complexation, how a plant complexes these metals, creates a complex out of these metals, it renders them not only harmless for the most part, but renders them nutritional and vital and, yes, essential for health. As far as your aluminum cans go, aluminum is one of the more inert of the metals, and you don't really have to worry too much about aluminum unless you're heating it, and that's where some of the bad publicity about aluminum and brain health comes from. There was some literature that came out a few years ago about the relationship between aluminum and in the brain and Alzheimer's disease, and all of a sudden everybody's freaked out about aluminum. But as we said so many times on this program, it's not aluminum or anything else that causes Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative disease of the brain that results from defective cells. So while heavy metals are certainly not a good thing and nobody's advocating them, we'd be much better off focusing on keeping our cells healthy via nutrition, nutritional supplementation, good food, dietary practices, breathing techniques, and perhaps supporting all of that with detoxifying substances like glutathione and vitamin C, which are two of the most important detoxifying substances for heavy metals. Did I answer your question, or did I confuse you?
No, I think it answers it. It's very helpful.
Okay.
But you mentioned, this part of what was in my mind was this publicity that you mentioned that came out about the
Alzheimer's in the brain. Just stupid doctor talk. Dumb.
So that was that's really misleading.
Very misleading. It's stupid doctor talk. Alzheimer's disease is macular degeneration of the brain. It's arthritis of the brain. It's a degeneration of cells. It's neural cells. It's brain cells. In arthritis, you have chondrocytes that are breaking down, joint cells. In osteoporosis, you have osteocytes that are breaking down, bone cells. In the brain, when you have neural cells that break down, you end up with Alzheimer's disease. And yes, aluminum will show up because the cells of the brain aren't processing the aluminum. But it's not the aluminum that's causing it. It's the cells that are not processing correctly, that aren't doing their biochemistry. Why doesn't your doctor tell you that? Well, number one, he probably doesn't know. But number two, they can't sell you a drug for your cells. That's the whole point. That's what we're talking about today in the monologue today. The doctor can't help you at the cell level, so he has to use misdirection like a magician. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Oh, look over here. It's the aluminum. We got something for the aluminum. Don't eat aluminum. Stay away from aluminum. Has anybody ever had their Alzheimer's disease disappear because they stopped using an aluminum frying pan? It's ridiculous. Even just thinking about it for a little bit. Got to move, Andrew. Thank you so much, buddy. I hope I helped you out. All right, real quick. Got a couple minutes. Truth Raider, what's up, my man?
Well, good morning, Ben. Are you keeping warm?
It's getting warm. It's almost 30 degrees today, so it's like balmy. I'll be doing shorts and a T-shirt.
Nice. Hey, they say the reference they call you Dr. Ben.
I'm not a doctor.
I know,
I'm
but
just a pharmacist.
When you look at it,
yeah,
in a sense, you're a de facto doctor, because what you're doing, what a doctor should be doing, is teaching us about health.
That's what doctor means, right? Isn't that what the word doctor means? Teach, to teach.
Exactly right.
That's what a good doctor will do. When you leave a doctor's office, you should understand more about how to take care of your body than you understood when you went into the doctor's office. If that doesn't happen, that doctor has failed in his sacred oath to be a doctor, in my opinion.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, doctor.
Yes.
This is my question of the week.
Yes.
I ate some, salad bars and so on and so forth. I get vegetables, maybe I get beets and all kinds of good stuff there.
Yeah.
I put all kinds of stuff on my salads. And then I wind up, I'll drink something that's high in vitamin C, maybe, I don't know, apple juice or grape juice or any of those types of things, orange juice. And I'll develop suddenly a sensation and a sore spot on my tongue.
Okay. All right. I would say
on the taste bud area.
If you're positive that that's related to the vitamin C, and there's only one way to know for sure, and that's on an empty stomach to get yourself some vitamin C water. Just do a laboratory controlled experiment with your body. Just get some vitamin C powder, put it in water, and drink that down and see what happens. And if your hypothesis is correct, then you should have that same kind of reaction. I don't think that's going to happen, but say it does. Chances are you're dealing with, depending on how long or how long it takes for that to occur, chances are you're either A, dealing with an allergic reaction, which is very unlikely because nobody's allergic to vitamin C, although you can be allergic to things that contain vitamin C. This is a big distinction. Vitamin C in foods may cause a problem, but straight vitamin C is not going to cause an allergic problem because you have to have a protein to respond to respond in an allergenic fashion. The immune system recognizes proteins. The immune system does not recognize straight vitamin C, so it's unlikely that it's going to be an allergic reaction. The second possibility is that you're throwing off gut bacteria. Vitamin C, if it's not absorbed, is going to pass through the digestive tract and it's going to pull water through the intestine, and it's going to cause you to have a little bit of diarrhea, and that can throw off the population of bacteria in the gut, and that can indeed cause skin reactions or tongue reactions or any kind of a topical sort of reaction. And so that's how I would be considering it. But you want to see if you can associate your ingestion of vitamin C with gut problems like cramping or bloating or gas or some kind of discomfort in the digestive tract area, and that's what I would be looking at. In the unlikely event that it's an allergic reaction, it can't be. I'm not even going to say that because it can't be an allergic reaction. Vitamin C is an essential nutrient without which you are dead as a doornail or doorknob, whatever that saying is. Anyway, thank you, Truth Raider, for calling, and I'm sorry that we left a couple folks on hold. I told you guys to call first thing because that's the only way I'm going to assure that we get everybody in, and I hate leaving people on hold. But if you guys, if I left you on hold, please call back tomorrow. Tell our call screener that we left you on hold, and we'll get you first up. Thanks so much for listening, folks. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Check out my website, brightsideben.com, or my blog, pharmacistben.com, or you can always call the Brightside Ben phone team if you want to join the Brightside Ben team. 866-735-2470 is their number. We will continue talking about eye health and degenerative diseases and glutathione and peptides and all the ways you can combat degeneration without drugs, without doctors, without Obamacare tomorrow on the Bright Side. Thanks so much, folks. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.